Okay, let me know when you're ready, Paul.
Yeah, we're now live again.
Excellent. Okay, welcome everybody to tonight's planning meeting. Have we got any public session? Anybody in the public session that was to speak? No? Ed?
Ed.
What about Mr. Grimsdale?
Yeah, I've just called him, Robin. Thanks. Ed, you're on mute. Right, just let you know, you have got 15 minutes and you are the only speaker, so you can take as long or as short of that as you wish. And you're back on mute.
Right. Well, thank you, Madam Mayor, and all the councillors for listening to me tonight. I'm talking about one of the applications on tonight's agenda, which is a double-storey front extension to house number 14 in Glinswood Road.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you may think initially that that is not a very shocking proposition and contains few difficulties of, shall we say, anything but local interest. Unfortunately, there is an elephant in the front garden of number 14. And that elephant is my elephant. We live at number 15, a house that has no frontage to any road that we can access. Our only ingress and egress is by an easement over number 14 front garden. That easement is a concrete path, a sloping concrete path, which directly follows the line of the path or pavement along the whole of the rest of Glinswood Road. It is vital at all times that we can obviously escape or get in their deliveries, etc., etc. I also point out that number 14 too does not have any direct contact on its land with parking areas on road. I think that's important. I'll come to that a bit later. Now, effectively, the new double-storey enlargement of number 14 puts the house closer to the easement line, to the path which my wife and I, etc., use to go down to number 15. Not, you might say, a real problem. It's still 1.5 meters away, Ed. But the house is lower at the moment than the path which we take down to our house. The whole ground floor is lower, and it is proposed that the new extension will have a ground floor lower than that path. So when I tread on the path exiting Glinswood Road, I will have my feet at the height of a window straight into the kitchen of the new extension. Personally, I would not wish to see Ed Grimsdale's feet anytime. They are utterly misshapen. Nor would I want to see Ed Grimsdale looming large in my kitchen window. He's an ugly bugger. His wife perhaps is quite pretty. So in terms of overall planning, it strikes me it's not an appetizing prospect all round. There has been some talk from my neighbour, Melissa Fazakali, of moving that easement without realising she would have to have agreement of the other party to the easement, i.e. number 15. It's slightly impractical for me to have it moved, to have, for instance, a bend out in the front garden, because my mobility is poor and it's about to get worse. I anticipate the next 3 months being a proud owner of mobility scooter. And frankly, I look forward to driving straight down the straight path to my gate and accessing our property. So there's a big issue there. But also, of course, what's going to happen to the deliveries during the actual phase of building? Now, I put it to this meeting that there needs to be a plan for deliveries and a plan for how the easement that I have across the front garden is actually utilised during the building work. I'm afraid that at the end of Glinton Road at our end, there is a turning circle for cars. You can't call it a turning circle because regularly it is full of 3 to 4 cars of those who live in numbers 13, 14 and 15. Where could they move to allow a vehicle to approach the land and deliver bricks, etc.? Well, they can't easily move up the rest of Lindsay Road because the parking by 5:30 p.m. is solid. Let me give you an example. 4 days ago, I phoned for a taxi at 5:30 to take me to Bletchley. It came along the narrow defile along Lindsay Road, picked me up. It had to then reverse all the way to the main Brackley Road, 200 metres or so, because there was no way it could turn because the turning circle was full of parked cars. So there are problems that need to be thought through, and I think there must be an annex to the planning, a planning condition to give a full treatment to how the parking will be arranged during the building works. And of course, we have a further longer term problem. This property number 14 is a 2-bedroom property at the moment. It is proposed to make it 3-bedroom. It has no on-street parking except across number 14's land. I suspect that in the future, one person at number 14 may become 2 or 3, perhaps 2 or 3 cars. There needs to be thought of that. What's the long-term impact on the car parking position that's already fraught on the Glynswood Road surface? Perhaps it's unwise. Now let's have a look at the planning application itself. It denies the possibility that there may be clay under the new extension. That's far from the truth. At least 2 houses along Glinton Road have had to be underpinned because they were built on clay and their foundations gave way. It may well be that clay is found. In other words, it may need a pretty deep set of footings because it is, after all, 2-storey. So I think that needs to be made more accurate. Also, I have a spruce which is 40 feet high, which is only 15 feet from the new extension. If it's felled by a northwest wind, that new extension is at risk. Well, they can take the risk, but it is not stated that the point in the application was it says, are there any trees which could cause a problem in terms of falling? Well, yes, there is, but the application says no, there isn't. As I say, my easement path is not denoted in any of the plans at all. I don't think you can make a proper determination when an important feature which has to be protected during building work is not evident, nor is it listed at all. There are inaccuracies on the ground plans. Neither house number 14, that has an extension both at the front and the back, nor mine house, our house, number 15, is set by a square, the original configuration from the 1960s. I have a side extension between my house and number 14. It is not evident from any plans. It affects the building which is going up. It needs to be on the plans. At one point, one of the plans indicates that our gable end abuts the edge of our territory between 14 and 15. It doesn't, because there is a 3-metre wide single-storey extension between our house and number 14. That is on our land. The actual line, the red line that denotes the area of which is being developed, is wrong. It doesn't show the correct edge line and border line, which does not bisect the space between the little square villa of number 15 and the original square villa of 14. Actually, the division line is about 1 metre away from number 14 and just over 3 metres away from number 15. That is an error. It needs to be put right. You can't make a determination when the plans are wrong.
Yeah.
Well, you know, another one of the diagrams suggests that our gable end is at the edge of our property. It is not, because there is this one-story extension between us and the next door building. Well, one feature I'd like to congratulate is that we find that there is at the back of number 14 a raised piazza, a raised, I think about 5 foot high, quite large, an area which means that any people sitting on this outside area is overlooking our back garden. I'm glad to say that's going to be reduced to half its present size. Hooray! That's all gain. We actually value our privacy. We reflect that it's going to be improved. So the points I'm making are that this particular application is economical with the actuality. It needs to go back to have the errors in its diagrams and plans put right. It needs to go back again because along Linswood Road, every house has the windows upstairs on the gable end on one side, but not the other. The side nearest the town, shall we say, has windows in the bathroom which face a blank gable side elevation on the next house. Well, in the new extension, they will have a obscured window, I know, but opposite and looking straight into our bathroom and toilet. I'm uncomfortable. I'm a noisy bugger and tend to flog myself. The occupant of number 14 is a single lady. She may be horrified by what she sees, even through obscured glass. My shape may loom. I think that's a shame. I think the tradition that we have alternate blank gable sides and a gable side with windows should continue and be perpetuated. It is not. This is a travesty of justice. I think it's a risible application. I think it will make people who live in 14 uncomfortable. It will add to car parking problems. It adds to our discomfort. And really, it should be looked at again. It's not terrible, but could do better, says the teacher. So I think it needs a proper plan for how it can be developed without ruining the amenity of all our neighbours in terms of parking during the daytime in Little Road. I think there are issues about parking permanently. I think there are issues about truthfulness in the application. It could go back, be withdrawn, be amended, and perhaps we might all be a little happier. I hope so. So I commend it to you to give it the thumbs down. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Can I just ask, are you going to be putting a comment on the portal?
Yes, I haven't done so because they are neighbours, and I said I would actually, and I have briefed the owner, Melissa Fasackley, about what I was going to say here tonight, and then I'll put it in writing on the portal, yes. And I'll send a copy in to you because I've made reference, but not clearly associated with the various diagrams and elements of the application. And you will need a guide through that for the purposes of writing any letter that you might be moved to think about.
That's very kind of you. All right, thank you so much, Ed. I do appreciate you coming along and taking the time to speak to us today. Thank you.
Thank you. I now, as you can see, I have a whole lot of power cuts. And my computer has got some power on, so I can see you. I've gone black. In a minute, my wife will come and say, Ed, how can I live here? I'm going to have to leave you all, but thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much,
blown
Ed.
my mind, more lectures and things. Cheers.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, bless. Gosh. Okay. Right. Let me go back to the agenda. Okay. Any apologies for absence, Nina?
Buckinghamshire councillors Warren White and Charlie Clare.
Thank you very much. Any declarations, anybody?
Chair, just that I'm a member of the planning committee, so just so you know, perhaps you could just note that rather as an interest.
Oh, Tim. Yep. Sorry, I didn't see you there. That's okay. Yeah, because you shouldn't speak in our meetings anyway, so you're just here as an observer.
Well, I can speak as local member.
Oh, when we get to that bit, yeah.
Yeah, later on.
Yeah, that's. Thank you ever so much. Okay, minutes of the meeting, 12th of October. Going to be put to full council on the 23rd of November. Has anybody got any comments on that? Robin?
Yeah, on 7.20.
1 minute, I'm just getting up. Hold on. I do have them up. I've got so many things up. 7.20. Yep, go ahead.
If you go down the paragraphs and you get past Buckinghamshire Council planning training, and you get down to clarifications, Councillor Touchbury reported that he would be responding with his question to Buckinghamshire Council, large undermining planning applications at the next. That was cabinet counts, but that's fine because it was. I said a lot, and it's easy to make these errors. That was the cabinet. That was a question at cabinet. That was to do with the applications non-determined. That response is back now.
Right, this again. Sorry, Councillor Touchbury.
When Councillor reported that there would be a response to his question, Buckinghamshire Council cabinet. That would be the response there. That was the question. I made a question about applications not being determined, where it says Councillor Such reported that he would also be submitting a question to Buckinghamshire Council. I actually submitted a motion to Buckinghamshire Council, not a question. I can understand why Nina did that, because there was two things in the same line, and it's very easy to do. But a motion isn't a question, and that motion was determined at the council meeting thereafter, and the 13th was the cabinet meeting and the 23rd was the council meeting. I spoke rather a lot, and Nina probably quite rightly got the two things shifted round. So as long as we get it was because I didn't submit a question on it, I submitted a motion to council. It's a larger affair, and it just caused a lot more of a discussion than a question. That motion was determined and passed amended, and that is full for public discussion if anyone wants to. There was something else, but nothing of great concern, just that because it was inaccuracy, not there was one other matter. I cannot find it now. I saw it earlier, but it doesn't matter. If I find it, I'll write to Nina afterwards. But that was the only real thing. It's important that we get those procedural things.
That's fine.
Right.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
And I can understand why she did that, because we talked about two subjects at the same time.
Yeah, and I did let you talk a lot last meeting, so you're right. You did.
That's good. It was a good thing to allow me to speak.
Right. Is there anybody else? Andy, I can see your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just the minutes for the public session doesn't give a lot of information or what I really said, except for one liner. I don't know whether that's the general practice of doing when we do the minutes.
No, it's not a general practice, Councillor Mahi. There's been public sessions that have been paragraphs long. Okay. Do you want to work with me and Paul on getting some more writing in that section? And it's got to come back to full council anyway, so members can disagree or agree at that point. We can't really talk about something that isn't there now, unfortunately. Are you happy with that?
Well, yes, I am happy if you and Paul and I agree. That's what we normally do.
We do normally have information there, and you're absolutely right. There isn't information there, not what you said anyway. So yeah, we can take a look at that, Councillor Mahi.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on that minutes?
Councillor Stutchbury has hand up.
Yeah, it just to, I
Councillor
did believe that I was going to say that section wasn't, if you remember, the webcast dropped out during the meeting and it didn't come in till after the public session at the last planning meeting. So we can't do the normal refer back to the what was on YouTube, because I don't believe YouTube started working till we got into the planning.
Councillor Stutchbury, it doesn't matter whether we're streaming on YouTube or not. The
No,
fact is that we were in, no, hold on. We were in a meeting. It was a proper planning meeting, and anybody that speaks in a public session, they have a right to have that recorded in there. It doesn't matter if we're streaming on YouTube or not. That's irrelevant.
I'm not disputing that, Chairman. I'm just saying it's unfortunate that was the case.
Okay.
But just to say, 7.15.2, what I was going to say, the motion that was submitted for information to the council on the calling to the planning system, we had a long discussion about that.
Is this to do with the actual planning minutes here?
Yes, that
What would you like changed?
That motion was submitted, and the response will be available when the minutes are published eventually, but it is on the webcast and the meeting if members want to see it.
What would you like changed though?
Nothing, I'm just saying that for information.
Oh, okay. All right, well, thank you. Is there anything else on the minutes? No. Paul, can you see anybody?
No.
No. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Item 4, Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan, Bella Bellsbury Plan 4.1. Receive and discuss the implications of VOUT for Neighbourhood Plan. Press release arising from the Buckinghamshire Council meeting held on 21st of October 2020, Appendix A. Would anybody like to speak? Okay, I can see Councillor Stutchbury's hand. I can't see anybody else at the moment.
That's Sheena's hand.
Ah, okay. Robin and Sheena, please.
I'll go after Sheena because she may answer my question.
Okay. I was going to say to do it the other way around, but I do want to be rude. So
no,
Sheena.
She may answer my question.
All right, Sheena.
I think this came in slightly too late for the agenda, but councillors might want to be aware of the VALP examiners update, which was posted on the 29th of October, last Thursday, where we get two sort of key bits of information that might inform the debate. So I just wanted to sort of to put this in. First of all, he notes that Buckinghamshire Council is going to put forward further proposed main modifications, which they are going to publish and consult on in the near future. And secondly, that he will not make, that is the inspector, will not make any decisions regarding further public hearing sessions until that consultation process has taken place.
Oh. Right.
So basically we've got more main modifications to come from Buckinghamshire Council, which will have to be consulted on, and then the inspector will make a decision as to whether he needs further public hearings on that. So in other words, quite a long process. still to go.
Yeah. Right.
Bit of a Halloween surprise, that one.
Gosh. Okay. Is there anything else that you wanted to say on that at all, Sheena?
No, I think I don't have much more to add to that point of the meeting.
All right. Well, thank you ever so much. Okay, Robin.
There are some wide-ranging concerns with the Vale plan. One is now it's not in conformity with the South Bucks plan, because further on the agenda we'll discuss that, but there is no South Bucks plan, so it can't be in conformity with that now, because it did actually take development from the South Bucks plan, took a number of houses from it in its early stages. But it is interesting that they are going to go out to further amendments to it, because when they were asked in writing about these matters, they didn't answer that question. I asked them whether it would affect the South Bucks plan failing would affect the Vale plan, and the answer came back, which is in the public domain, that it wouldn't. I contest that there is a huge change, and the fact that they're going to do major changes to this plan or seeking changes, when we know, when Councillor Mark Cole attended the hearings, they never ever took in consideration the challenges against the affordability numbers within the Vale plan, which went in at 25% when we were wishing them to go in at 35%. So we would be interested to know what they actually are wanting to change, because one of the biggest concerns with the Vale plan always was its determination to have only 25% affordable. And the only time it was ever challenged publicly was when I challenged it myself at council and sought to put an amendment against the 35% and an amendment for putting back in to the local area plan, which was to take Osier Way out of it and put it back as industrial. Now, they were the only two amendments at council that went to it. They were both voted down. So I think we need to at least see whether they're going to be looking at the affordability numbers, because it is a real concern if this is passed. The correspondence states, and the council has stated, that it wishes to bring a Buckinghamshire plan forward by 2023. That's a whole Buckinghamshire plan. It also states in the correspondence that there's £600,000 available in the budgets from the Southern plan, not actually being proceeded. They've got £600,000 in budget. So there's lots of questions here. And if the Vale plan isn't in conformity, they took one decision for North Buckinghamshire, for South Buckinghamshire, and another for North Buckinghamshire. And we've always had problems with the Vale plan because it isn't in conformity with our own local plan, and it challenges much of the local plan. So I think we should write to them and ask them what these things they think need amending, because if they're not amending the very things that was never consulted about when Councillor Mark Cole attended those hearings, we never got to put our case against affordable. It'd be a shame if that wasn't included, wouldn't it? If they were going to amend it up to 35% affordable, we could applaud them for that. They're going to miss that again, being as all figures state that North Buckinghamshire is going to have the largest amount of growth. That means they're not going to be able to hit their affordability targets in the short to medium term until such time as the Buckinghamshire plan after 2023 has gone through all its stages of consultation. So that will be 2025, 26. So that's a long period of time. A lot of property will get built in that time. So, presently, the affordability numbers are even better in the 2004 plan than they are in the future plan. So from that point of view, not much is gained. So I do think there's a lot of uncertainty in this. And we do need to know. And I'd be interested in what Councillor Cole's thoughts about the affordability has been, as he tried desperately to try and force that issue for us and was rebuffed.
Yeah, Councillor Cole, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Stutchbury, just for reminding the committee about that. Yeah, we attended the inspectors' hearings twice. Went there on a Wednesday, went back on the Friday, and both times they ran out of time before he heard us. And he did say he would consider our representations on affordable housing at a later date. As you say, that's still not happened. So I would hope that one of our Shire councillors would remind Buckinghamshire Council that we are still waiting to have our say on that. But after what Sheena's told us, I'm astonished they're going to proceed with the Vale of Aylesbury plan, because it's had its time now, and as Robin says, by the time it comes out, it'll be history anyway. The only good thing from our point of view is that we still have the Buckingham Neighbourhood plan, which is the overarching plan at this time, and that is sacrosanct. It cannot be touched until either the VALP or a Buckinghamshire plan is made. So that's our one protection against all this at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else want to speak?
Just to make
Yeah, Robin, I was coming back to you. I just wanted to check my screen because you've already spoken once. Let me just see. No. Okay, Robin.
Well, it is interesting because I attended a planning meeting that never took place the other day, which was the only second time that the Buckingham area's planning committee had met, and that the application there premised all these policies within the neighbourhood plan, the Vale plan, against policy such and such, policy so and so, policy such and such, and it stated they have more weight. Well, I'm not sure what weight they have further than they did before. Needless to say, that application never got heard because the district council had failed to consult Newton Longville. So the meeting had to be disbanded because in the Constitution, it hadn't actually filled their obligation to consult the parishes. So everyone marched up the hill and everyone marched back down again on our second opportunity to meet, which just gives me a lot of faith that everyone else is in conformity, Chairman. So, you know, this aside, these are important issues. They're about people's applications to be determined, and they're giving a lot of weight to this policy, which is now, as Councillor Mark Cole said, actually an ancient document and probably needs to be archived. And we need to move on with something which is in conformity with the aspirations of the larger majority of the people in North Buckinghamshire. I just cannot see how we go on. I mean, I fear that this charade will go on for a lot longer before a decision is made about it. But South Bucks may be a pointer to where we're going.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for that. Okay, 4.2, you're up again, Sheena.
Okay, I'll try and not take up too much time of the committee because I know you've got a busy agenda and you've had interim. I could sum it up in one sentence. You probably didn't miss an awful lot at the seminar. It was Sir John Simpson, who's a professorial fellow at the university, who's an architect, very prominent architect who believes very strongly in traditional architecture, and Nicholas Boyce Smith, who did Building Better, Building Beautiful commission report. It was really sort of just discussing the report from that commission. It was relatively interesting. Two key things I would maybe have taken away from it is, one, they believe now might be the moment with electric cars becoming very, very popular to have yet another go at trying to remove the car from the urban environment to a much greater extent. Things that I think the committee would be in sympathy with, which is, you know, very much more careful design about neighbourhoods and forming sense of place. Evidently, tree-lined avenues go a huge way to creating a sense of place and community. I think that was probably the thing I do remember from the seminar. It was very small and very few people. I would say that possibly, and I did make the point to the university that I think having face-to-face seminars at the moment for the public, etc., is not probably going to get you a big audience. They didn't want to put it online because I think Nicholas Boyce Smith was worried that he might say something that might be used against him with the government, but I couldn't actually find anything that might be considered so much of a political hot potato, but I may have missed something. What I did think was interesting was his comments on the white paper, and his view that whilst it's obviously a start, it's a starting ground for a discussion. One of the things he says that they haven't looked at, perhaps in context, is the problem of land value and the current tax position, particularly in relation to capital gains tax, which encourages landowners to move the process very, very quickly, to have a high turnover so that they don't end up with a capital gain on the land. So very briefly, but he was saying, I think if the whole thing is going to be a radical change, then it's got to be more than just the planning system itself. They've got to look at the tax position and the tax laws. I have had a nice email from John Adamson, who runs these programmes, and he has promised me that he will keep the town council in loop about future seminars. So that is at least one contact made. And I think that's really all I've got to report on it. It was really just going over that commission report, which will be quite useful when it comes to looking at the design guide. Happy to take any questions.
Brilliant. Does anybody have any questions for Sheena?
Yes.
Yep, Robin.
Sheena, did he? It was about beautiful design.
Yeah.
And I disagree that the government white paper was going to offer any beautiful design. And it was interesting that he felt comfortable talking about the tax issues within the government white paper and not the burdens that it puts on local government in the fact that they have to borrow money from developers. This isn't my words, they were uttered by Councillor Martin Tetty in his response at council. And we discussed this here. It seemed that this whole business of design and the way we go with beautiful design is at odds with the government's proposals in its white paper, because it challenges the whole principle of Section 106 or SIL agreements all being clubbed together in a financial package. Well, if you can't plan it gradually through a proper development plan, how can you get beautiful design? You can't leave it to the developer because he's got shareholders to consider, and we've got constituents to consider. There's two different elements there. Did he not say anything about that aspect of it, of beautiful design, because it is quite challenging?
Yes, what he did say would be that I think he emphasised this idea of the forward-loading idea that local government and local democracy input would be at the beginning of the process in developing the strategic plan, and the contribution from design guides, local design guides. He thinks it's very much a grassroots thing, that it's got to be a local design guide, not a national design guide. I did actually put very much the same point to him about this was all very nice, but in the end, we just get met with cries of viability, that it would be nice to have these things, and then its viability against developer contribution. I did think that this was a little bit, it's very nice to talk about gentle density and things like that, urban design, but that it lacked a little bit of rooting in the actual day-to-day reality of planning, and not really coming up with a solution. As he simply says, oh, if you build beautiful, people will buy it. Yeah, that was pretty much his response, that if you build it, people will buy it.
Well, good luck.
If I can say this sort of off the record, I had a bit of an Angela Rayner moment with this idea of the, dare I say it, slightly posh boys who have these lovely ideas about design, but perhaps not quite so much idea of day-to-day mundane planning, shall we say.
Yeah, the bits that are actually very important.
Yeah.
All right, wonderful.
Thank you for that,
so
Sheena.
much.
I often feel like having an Angela Rayner moment, and I always try to stop myself.
Thank you ever so much for that. Right, does anybody else have any questions for Sheena before we move on? No. Okay. All right, thank you again, Sheena. Okay. We are on to action reports, 5.1 Appendix B. Who would like to speak first? Mark.
Unmute. You're on.
Muted. Thank you.
No holding a good man back. Page 1, the Tinchwick Road roundabout signage. I sent a photograph to all the committee members to show that the correct sign is now in place. I'm showing that you go to the university by turning left, but the problem remains that they've got writ large cemetery, which doesn't exist yet. So that really needs blanking off until such a time as we do have the cemetery there. The other good thing, of course, is that they've sorted out the arrows on the road now, so you turn left to go into Buckingham and you go straight on for the bypass. So that has been corrected, although there's been no warning to drivers that the road markings have been changed. Sheena's trying to leave us, I think, as I'm saying that. Thank you, Sheena. That was my only comment.
Yeah, thank you for the photograph. I agree about the cemetery because we have one active cemetery, so it's misleading to have that up without there being an actual cemetery there at the moment.
Because people attending a funeral may go to the wrong place, of course, who don't know Buckingham. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, through the office, can we get that blanked off via the Shire Council as soon as possible, please? Thank you, Paul. Does anybody else want to talk about anything on the action list? Carolyn?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it was just the Summerhouse Hill bit. I can't remember which number it is on the action list. But,
it's on the second page under enforcement reports and queries.
Exactly. The area in question has been planted out. So that side of the appearance is much improved. However, there has been a plethora of signs just being put up there. And I don't know, I expect Catherine saw the photograph that Kathy sent. Just a sort of regiment of signs all the way along Summerhouse Hill. And I know this comes up from time to time because all estate agents do it. Is there anything that we as a town can do to try and prevent this blight, really, on the residential amenity?
Yeah, I believe we had a policy, but I think it was only after the property had been sold or let that we gave them a certain amount of days before they had to take it down, and then we wrote to them. And if they didn't take it down, then our guys would take it down and they would have to collect it. I don't know, Paul, do you know if that's still in practice? It should be, but...
Yeah, it's still in place.
Do you know how many days after the property sold they have to be removed?
Catherine's waiting with her hand up.
Oh, Catherine?
It's 14 after the property is sold. But I was waiting for Kathy to come back to me because she said she'd been talking to the estate agents themselves. And one of them had said that it was Western Homes themselves insisted on them being down there at the road edge. If Kathy comes back to me and says, you know, what she's reporting back, then I can write letters.
Okay, I gather that she's had short shrift from the Connells, I think it was.
See, I thought they had to be a certain amount of distance from the property itself.
No, it can't be outside the curtilage of the property advertised. It can be on the building, or it can be within its garden or something like that. And that's why we have a bang against the ones that put them on the bypass, because you can't tell which house they're supposed to be advertised. But yes, they do try and say, oh, well, it's sold subject to contract. Well, once you put sold up on the board, that's sold.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, there's purple bricks and everybody there, not even all local, you see. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you for looking at the problem.
I'll send Kathy an email and see where she's got to with that, and then if they are all standing fast on it, then they'll all get a letter.
Thanks, Catherine. Is there any more, Carolyn?
No, that's all from me on that point.
Thank you. Robin, and then Anthony.
Anthony before me.
Anthony, then Robin.
Thank you. Just continuing that, the group of signs are actually attached to the road name sign, and I wondered if the highways were happy with this takeover of their property to have estate agents boards sort of lassoed to them.
Catherine?
Street naming have already been informed.
Aha. Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, Robin.
Yeah, just two things, Chairman. 4/20. Some time back, the planning committee determined on an application on North End Square, and it was about Verney Close surgery, and we asked whether it could be designated as a community asset. It hasn't got a date to do it, only an action, which is probably unfortunate because it's a planning. It was an action for the town clerk from the planning committee, so that needs to be. Things might have moved on. I might be something I've missed. If I've missed it, I apologise. And the calling requests, I noted at the beginning of the meeting that Councillor Mills was under the illusion that he could speak in the meeting. He can only speak if we suspend his standing orders, because this isn't full council, it's a planning meeting. Because we got under 3.2.5 the applications which were declined to be called in. I know we're discussing them later, but I'm saying now, if Councillor Mills has got any of it, he shall have to suspend standing orders, because he can't just speak. But going back to the first point, which is 40/20, maybe the town clerk knows something I don't know, which I hope he does. Maybe he knows a lot I don't know. But that application, we were going to find out about it, where it could be a community asset.
Yeah, the short answer is we were waiting on Buckinghamshire Council putting together its new forms and approach for accepting applications. So I've just got those through in the last week or so. So we will now be submitting that application.
Thank you.
Brilliant timing. Thank you.
Oh, I must be psychic then.
You must be. Gosh.
I perhaps I ought to help with the crystal ball situation we need in the country as well. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else on the action list? Nope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chair, can we just clarify Robin's other point about Tim and Buckinghamshire councillors speaking, that we do now have a standing item on planning agenda under which we discuss with Buckinghamshire councillors who might be willing to call things in. So under that item, Buckinghamshire councillors can speak.
Is that right? Okay. It's just that I didn't actually. It was to ask Buckinghamshire councillors to speak on our behalf. I didn't realise it's now changed to asking Buckinghamshire councillors to speak. That's a change of emphasis to what I thought it was. I don't know when we actually agreed that emphasis, but I'll take it under advisement.
8.1, Robin, and it was about 3 meetings back.
Oh well, I must have been in a comfort break at that point.
Maybe the meeting you missed.
Oh dear. Okay. Right. Okay, we are on 5.2 to receive a report from Councillor Cole on the Town and Parish Liaison meeting held on the 13th of October 2020, Appendix C. Councillor Cole, would you like to speak on this item? You're muted.
Nothing to add to what I wrote there, just to point out, in case there's any confusion, this of course is not the Buckinghamshire Community Board. This is the Bulk Parishes Liaison meeting. I have been talking to our town clerk about the community boards, which I've got a lot of problems with at the moment, and we're going to put a motion before the full council on November the 23rd about that. But what I've written here in Appendix C is just a very brief report of the meeting, and I think everyone who was at that meeting came away quite positive. Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate your report. So thank you firstly for attending on our behalf, and also for providing this report. It's very informative. So much appreciated.
Thank you.
Would anybody like to speak on this item, or are we happy to note the report?
Just to second the thanking Councillor Mark Cole for attending this on our behalf and giving us a report. It's going to need monitoring.
Okay. Right, so duly noted. 5.3. To receive as requested a copy of the agreed HGV routes for East West Rail Works, Appendix D. Would anybody like to speak on this item? Councillor Cole?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, this is the traffic routes for East West Railway, which we were chasing up. Thank you, Catherine, for getting hold of those. The worrying things are the first map, the general traffic routes, showing in blue what the heavy vehicle routes are going to be, and then just a bit further down, Steeple Claydon to Winslow, which again shows those routes. Now, on both those maps, we are going to have heavy vehicles using the A421 and the A413. So it's going to put a lot of extra traffic onto our bypass and onto the Buckingham Winslow Road. So I think we should view that with some concern, because we don't know how many movements at the moment. We have also, as you know, requested the HS2 movements, but I think Catherine is still waiting for those plans to come.
Yeah, indeed. I agree with your concerns on that. Robin?
Just in support of what Councillor Cole said, but the routes for the HS2 that I've seen, which going back to the community board, seems to be able to discuss HS2 already, but not the environment, which seems strange. But those routes pretty much mirrored the East-West Rail routes, which is the heavy traffic staying on the roads around the bypass. Now, it is important that we see those routes. Councillor Hirons in the minutes was present at the meeting that I attended. It could be that his memory is different to mine. It did actually state that those routes were pretty much the same routes, but Councillor Hirons, was like myself sitting there listening to the debate. We didn't get much discussed about North Buckinghamshire at that meeting, but it did have the routes there, and it looked like they were going to follow the same routes. I'd be interested where Councillor Hirons thought they were the same routes, just to make sure on my case, because I think we've got a big worry if they are.
Councillor Hirons?
As you said, Robin, they didn't talk much about the north of about Winslow, if you like, drawing that east-west line across there. But I can't see it being any different, because there are only certain roads that are capable of taking heavy trucks. You mightn't like it, but otherwise they'll sort of go through Padbury, Steeple Claydon, that sort of route, which is much worse than them going the route that they are at the moment. So there isn't really any choice for both of them. The only thing we really want is them to get on with the thing, because the sooner they start, the sooner they'll finish.
Has anybody got any other comments? Nope.
Only that we could always hope that they don't get on with the thing and apologise, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, definitely not. Okay. Right, on to plan applications. So you've got Appendix E, which is a very thorough report again from Catherine. And I'm sure you'll join me in thanking her for putting this together.
Absolutely.
Right, I've got some hands up, but I haven't started on the first one yet. So, no, okay. Right, so our first one is TJ's. So 6.1, TJ's 4 Market Square. Mark, do you want to go first? You're muted.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm going to speak against this. There are a lot of problems, inconsistencies in this application. It's to change what is at the moment an off licence on the ground floor of a 3-storey building into a restaurant. They want to put extraction flues on the side of the ground floor unit where they'll be seen from the road together with a balcony, an access balcony, so they can maintain it. Just since Catherine made her report, the Heritage Officer has come back. She wants a large number of amendments. She points out the upper 2 floors are leased to the hotel. They're owned by the applicant. She doesn't like the current signage letters or the strip lighting that's on the current application. She also points out that their plans show double doors to the off license, whereas in fact it's a single door. So that's a change as well. She, as I said, she doesn't like the flue for the extract flue, and she wants that to be either made higher or put on the back of the building, but generally there's quite a lot. Councillor Strain Clark has asked the committee to also note that the layout inside is not wheelchair friendly for anyone wanting to use the WC in that property. There's no room. If those are fixed tables and chairs, or even if they're not, people would have to move to allow a wheelchair user to get through. So I think there's so much in this that we need to go back. The statement itself, their design statement, is an absolute mess. And it finishes off in conclusion: we're proposing a modest canopy in order to protect the goods from weather conditions and to provide a better quality for the food exposed on the shelves on the pavement. And the fascia sign would also benefit for the advertising of this proposed restaurant by attracting clients to the shop. Well, neither of those have got anything whatsoever to do with the application. So it looks like a cut and paste job from something else. And I don't think we can accept it like this. It needs to be sent back, needs to be sorted out. And whatever we do, we need to go to the Heritage Officer as well. And let's wait till we get the amendments back that she wants and a better written design statement.
Yeah, not only that, she criticises that their drawings are not good enough. She wants to improve drawing package and all the other things that you've mentioned. Okay, any other comments before we go to the vote on this one? Nope. Okay, so we'll kick this off with Mark's suggestion that we oppose. Hands up to oppose this application.
I'm at 6.
Those who are happy to accept the application.
No, nobody.
Abstentions?
1, 2.
Thank you very much. Okay. That was 6.1 and 6.2. So our next one is 6.3. The Old Brewery House, 4 Castle Street. Cast iron vents to improve damp levels in the gable wall. Personally, I didn't see any problem with this, but happy to open the discussion.
No, I agree.
Yep. Okay, so hands up to not oppose this application.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Those against?
None.
Abstentions?
1.
Thank you. Okay, 6.4 Glennswood Road. As you heard, Ed spoke in the public session. He is the neighbour. He brings a lot of concerns to the forefront. So I'll open the floor for discussion. Robin?
I'm not going to comment on the application, but I will make an observation on Mr. Grimsdale's comments. Well, I have taken Mr. Grimsdale home with his shopping, and his comments about accessibility I will have to consider in another place if this application actually goes to committee, because he made some. I hope those points make their way through the discussions. He was honest in his approach, but I'm not commenting on this application, just his comments that Mr. Grimsdale made.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anybody would like to comment? Oh, John.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we listened as always with delight to Ed and the comments he was making and the humour he injected. I guess my question would be to Catherine, based on what he said, are there any planning grounds that we can extract from what he said that we might wish to object to this application? Because although he mentioned a lot of things, I wasn't sure whether any of them actually fall within the brief of what we can legitimately use to object. But I may not obviously know as much as you, Catherine. So any views on that would be most helpful.
Draw the officer's attention to the faults in the boundary marking on the plans.
Yeah.
And the fact that access for number 15 is via the front of number 14, and bringing the extension forward to that extent could be a problem. And parking is certainly a planning matter.
Yeah.
And
another thing as well is, does the Party Wall Act get involved here?
It's a detached house.
But we're talking about boundaries, aren't we?
Well, the fact that they've drawn the boundary as if it's equidistant between their house and they've not even bothered to put Ed's extension on. I will look up the planning. Well, I will look up the planning number for that extension and put that in the thing so that the officer is advised.
Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously, on the basis of what you've said, Catherine, I would propose that we object.
But the boundary certainly goes outside Ed's extension and not through it. Okay.
Thank you. Carolyn?
Yes, well, obviously we had quite a long discussion about this earlier. And does overlooking not come into consideration there?
It's an obscured glass window, and that doesn't count as overlooking. If it was a clear glass window, it could, but if it's marked on the drawings as obscured, then we can't argue, really.
Right. Okay. Well, we had parking amenity of neighbourhood and the parking, plus of course the inaccurate diagrams that we were about.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Anthony.
I did wonder about the easement, whether that should be part of the planning application, and the fact it's been omitted is a reason for us to object.
That's why I'm saying
across the part.
That's why I'm saying I will draw the officer's attention to it. It's not actually a planning matter.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? No. Okay, so I'll kick this off with we'll oppose this application. Those who are happy to oppose, please show.
3, 4, 5, 6.
Those in support.
None.
Abstentions.
2.
Thank you very much. Okay. Right, 8 Morton Road is our next one. We've got no statutory notice on this. Okay, garage conversion. Would anybody like to speak on this? Paul?
Yeah, I can't, as you know, I never like to see garages lost from their proper purpose, because there might be a vintage car to go in there. Keep that out. I think that there is no reason why we shouldn't have no objection to it. Should have no objection to it.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else? No. Okay, so kick this off with, we'll support this application. Those in agreement, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Ooh. Those who are against?
None.
Abstentions?
1.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chairman, don't we normally say that we don't object, we don't support them? That suggests another thing altogether, supporting a planning application.
We will not object.
Yeah, we don't object. We don't support, rather than actually supporting it, which means that we really die if this bloke doesn't have his thing cut up, his garage made into a playroom or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, okay. All right. 6.6, we've got 15 Chandos Road. I can't see any issues with this one, but open it up. Carolyn?
Thank you. I haven't looked at the application on the portal, and I wasn't sure whether there would be any comments from the Heritage Officer. But obviously, it's a local interest building. It's in pink in the conservation area map. And we don't really have any problem with the extension as such, but it is noted that the top light of the extension, the garden room, does impinge on that very fine Venetian window, which is on the rear wall of the house. It's a minor point. As I say, I don't know whether the Heritage Officer had possibly picked that up. It is a building of interest locally, and I don't think it can actually be seen from, well, certainly can't be seen from the road. Can it be seen from the park? Possibly not.
No, I don't think it can, but happy to take Catherine's comments on that.
Heritage Officer hasn't responded yet.
No. Okay.
So nothing to say one way or the other. But if we put it in our response, she'll be alerted, won't she?
Okay, so anybody else?
Tim Mills wish to speak, I believe.
Sorry?
Tim Mills wish to speak?
He can't, unfortunately, because we've
No,
got
I
to
didn't.
wait.
Was just picking up a glass of beer.
Lucky Tim.
Right. Okay, so hands up not oppose this application.
No objection is the word.
Objection.
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5. Okay, those against, those who oppose it.
None.
Abstentions.
1, 2.
Thank you very much. Okay. Right, next one is are we on Chandra's?
Kingfisher.
Yeah, 14 Kingfisher Road. We do have a neighbour complaint. Their garden is 6 feet below the base of the garage, and they're concerned about loss of sunlight and visual impact, being 2.5 stories high. And the only comment I would have is that the extension, the woodwork doesn't look like the rest of the house, so it could impact on the street scene. But I'm happy to open up for discussion. Anthony?
I would just concur with your point about the street scene. It looks like something planted from somewhere else.
Would that be overdevelopment as well for that property?
Don't know, Catherine, overdevelopment?
It's a very big plot. You have to sort of consider how much extension against how much plot it's being put in. It's not really crowding it. I mean, the footprint is not changing. They're just extending upwards and changing the use of half of a double garage.
Yeah. Does anybody have any comments on the neighbour's complaint? Paul?
Yeah, well, it's obviously true, you know. The question is, how much do we protect one person's current enjoyment of his property with someone else who would enjoy it more by making it bigger? And I don't know that we're really that it's our job to judge that. I don't know what anyone else thinks, but so I think we take the view that, well, we let it go, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm guessing that based on how the house is, like the location of it, the way that it's facing, the neighbour behind their house being lower already isn't impeded, but you add another story on top of the garage and you can see where they're coming from. Okay, so we'll have a show of hands then if nobody else wishes to speak on this. I actually wonder whether if we don't oppose this, we can add in our comments about the street scene, the extension looking completely different from the rest of the house, and anything else along there. Catherine?
We can always add comments. Just because we've ticked the no objections box doesn't mean to say that we can't add comments.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do actually put on the minutes no objections subject to comments.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, so hands up for not objecting to this application, please.
1, 2, 3.
Those who oppose the application?
None.
Those abstain?
1, 2, 3, 4. 5.
Thank you very much. Okay. Right, 8 Morton Road is the next one.
8 Morton Drive.
Sorry, yeah, I've written down road. You're right, 8 Morton Drive. We do have another neighbour objection on this one. So open this out for discussion. Anthony?
No objection.
Okay. All right, so we'll go with that. Hands up for not objecting to this application, please?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Hands up for opposing this application, please.
None.
Abstentions?
None.
Robin, you normally abstain.
One abstention.
Thank you. Right. Okay. Next one is 1 Hilltop Avenue, single story rear extension. Open it for discussion. Mark?
Yeah, these are 4 houses on Page Hill, which have been basically untouched since they're built in the 1970s. And what they'll do if they brick up one of these porches, as you can see in the photograph with the green garage door alongside it, it's going to change the street scene. I suppose there's an argument, do you try and maintain a street scene forever, which architects would obviously love, or do we just move with the times? We're now in 2020. I don't think there's a problem with this porch. So I think we could probably go with it.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so hands up for not objecting to this application, please.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Thank you. Those who want to support it?
None.
Sorry, oppose it. Those those abstaining?
1.
Thank you. Right, next one is 71 Overend Crescent. There's no statutory notice. We've got an objection from the neighbour behind the house. We do have, there is inadequate parking up there, so there is legitimate concerns over construction lorries if this gets the go ahead. But happy to open it up for discussion, Mark.
Yeah, I'm going to object to this on overcrowding, basically. It's a 2-story side extension. They're going to keep the carport that's there at the moment, but that'll be the only parking associated with the property because there's nowhere else they can park except on the street if they don't use that. And they're increasing it to 4 bedrooms. So under Buckinghamshire Planning's own guidance, there should be at least 2 parking spaces available. There'll only be 1. I mean, there's a lot of problems here with the curtilage. I sent photographs to the planning committee members this evening just to confirm that there's a ramp that goes between the 2 houses, between number 69 and 71. And that ramp belongs to number 69. So obviously 71 has access off that ramp to get into the carport. There is an objection from number 69 saying it would overlook and cast a shadow over his property, creating a claustrophobic feeling. The corners of the houses are only 3.5 meters of the house apart, so they're already on top of each other, and this is going to make it even worse. Mr. Watson says the extension should be moved further back and perhaps further out where there's no other property to get caught up with. So for all those reasons, most particularly overdevelopment and the parking, I would propose we object.
Yeah. Okay, any other thoughts? No. Okay, so oppose the application on the grounds that Mark and I said about. Hands up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Those against?
None.
Abstentions?
1.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Chairman,
Sorry.
can you note that I left the meeting now as you've dealt with the applications I was interested in?
Oh, are you not staying for our 8.1? What's it? 8.1.
What was that one?
8.1 is to receive news of Buckinghamshire Council from council members present.
It's going to be a nil report, I think.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Safe journey home, Tim.
Okay. Right, I've lost myself now. Okay, we're on Gilbert Scott Road.
Yeah.
Change of use from amenity land to residential curtilage. Open this up for discussion. Nope. Paul?
Could I just ask Catherine, how did this come about? Because looking at the history, it was sort of, it seems to have been, is it being bought by someone, this land, or what?
We had this application before, and the officer suddenly discovered that AVDC had cobbled up the transfer of land back in 2001, so that it hadn't got transferred out of the open space classification and into the residential classification.
Oh.
And then we had a plea at the end of one meeting, because it received quite late and it was done under chairman's items, from the applicant saying, why should I have to go through all this palaver again? And they have included in the documents this time AVDC's grass cutting maps that shows that they don't maintain that area. So they knew all along it wasn't theirs.
Oh, right.
It seems a shame, because all it is there's a disabled lady who can't walk far and she'd like to park the car quite close to the front door.
Oh, right. But does she own it?
Yes, the land is transferred.
Oh, right.
But it hasn't had its classification redone. So it's still down on AVDC's books as public open space.
Well, that's AVDC's fault then.
Yeah.
Yes, and highways are perfectly happy that it's not highway land, and they're okay with the new parking area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then I propose we have no objection to this.
We had no objections last time, so.
Yeah. Right, hands up. Not objecting.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Those opposing?
None.
Abstentions?
1.
Thank you. Okay, Royal Latin School, variation of condition 13 on the application, relating to the hours of operation. There's no statutory notice on this. There is a neighbour objection, concerns over the acoustic fence not working properly. Wonder whether environmental health could perhaps investigate that one if it's not been installed properly, possibly. And yeah, so I'll open this for discussion. I can see Robin's hand up.
Seeking some advice through the clerk and the planning clerk. This is a new application, isn't it? Though it's a verification of a change to a previous application. The reason I say this is the original application went to committee and we spoke on it under the old planning system before the new planning authority. So if this application we're determining, we've already all commented on it per se, including myself, because I commented on it in the previous application, and this is a change to application, or this is this counted as a brand new application, which puts a completely different view on how I can act with it.
It's a variation of one of the conditions of the approval. Now, at the moment, the conditions say that the hours of operation shall be so in term time, and in the holidays they're reduced. And what they want is to delete the clause that says that the holiday hours are reduced hours. They have to shut up shop at 8 o'clock if it's holidays and 10 o'clock if it's term time. And this is the community use in the evenings after the school's finished. School has the use of the playing pitch until 5 o'clock, and then junior teams for the first part of the evening and adult teams for the second part of the evening. And what they want is to extend the hours, because they've got floodlights, they want to extend the hours into the half-term holidays and the Christmas and Easter holidays.
But seeking some clarification again, when we determined the application, the conditions were something which was agreed in committee when it was agreed, wasn't it? We didn't discuss the conditions, did we?
We don't get to discuss the conditions that are imposed on approval. It's just that they feel that they could be selling the time on the pitch in the holidays.
I think that gets me where I need to be. Thank you, Catherine.
Cool. Paul?
Yeah, I think we did, regardless of where, like as usual, whether we're supposed to talk about it, but I thought we did mention it when they were doing it, because obviously having floodlights going not all night, but till 10 o'clock does affect certain people who are near it.
Yeah.
So they're quite powerful, these lights.
Yeah.
And the people who are along the top of that bit of London Road or the top of Bortonville, I would have thought it would, be a bit deterious, is that the word for them,
I wouldn't have thought the floodlights would get as far as the London Road and Bortonville from over by Railway Walk. The artificial pitches are against the Railway Walk boundary of the Latin. It's going to attack the people on Mount Pleasant more because it goes straight across the top of the railway cutting and into their backs.
Well, it's the same principle. I wasn't particularly talking about. I was.
But I mean, they're entitled to take it to 10 during term time. It's just that these odd weeks they feel that they could perhaps, I don't know, perhaps run coaching schools or something like that. And it doesn't specifically say summer holidays at the moment, but of course, if you remove that clause, it would be open for them to use the pitch in the summer holidays as well until 10 o'clock.
Yeah, and that could become an issue for the neighbours if they want to enjoy their back gardens in the summer. Okay.
Councillor Harvey wishes to speak.
Oh, thank you. Oh, he's on my other screen. John? I'm
I'm very reluctant to support this because I guess I'd like to know whether yellow notices have gone up in the areas where people might be aware of the floodlighting and also the noise, because teams playing, I don't know, 5-a-side or whatever at 9 o'clock at night can sometimes get quite loud, and noise does travel on those still summer evenings and so on. And I think unless I can be told otherwise, I would prefer that we object to this, because I'd like to know whether the school has engaged with the people living in nearby areas to let them know their plans. And also, how has it been? I mean, we've been in strange circumstances since this whole thing has gone off. So I would say it's too early. And I'd like, for people in the neighbouring areas to kind of have a view on this. And therefore, at the very least, I'll abstain. But frankly, I'm more inclined to object to this.
Yeah, the neighbours have not been informed, so no statutory notices have gone up yet.
Okay. Done deal as far as I'm concerned then.
Yeah. Thanks, John. Martin?
Yeah, thank you. In the vein with the others, really, light and noise pollution. It's not just the direct lighting from the floodlights, but the reflected lighting into the atmosphere, especially if you are, you're doing telescope and stuff like that. So there are other people that will require a darker area. And as has already been said, during the summer months, people would like that quietness as well. So I'm not in favour of this going ahead. Change of condition.
And I'd like to remind members that we did spend an awful long time talking about the times of use, because we did consider the neighbours, you know, at great length. And this was one of our concerns with them having the pitch there at the very, very start of all of this. So, yeah, I'll be minded to opposing it as well. Right, Robin, last thoughts.
Just to remind ourselves, if through Catherine, when we discussed historically the floodlighting on there, there was a large discussion about getting the ambience or the ampage of that lighting down to a level where it didn't go back into the properties. I remember that was one of the things historically we asked for, and they did come to that. The other element that we asked for was reassurance about the acoustic fence, and the acoustic fence and the lighting were two things that they both amended. Then the only reason it went to committee was because at the time I was unhappy with the drainage of the site, which is something that isn't being discussed tonight.
No, it's not.
It's that it was going to go into a soakaway and not a drain. So I think there are, you know, elements in this which are intriguing, and in the sense that the thing which is unfortunate about this, if we hadn't had COVID, it would have been in full operation during this period of time, and Gravity would have taken care of all these questions we need answered about noise, wouldn't they? But I can't see it's in full operation at the moment because of COVID, which is a sad thing with a facility like that. But could I ask, are my assumptions about what we discussed about right or not?
Yes, but this is simply a question of variation, the condition on timing. It's nothing to do with the drainage, so we can't bring that up.
No, I meant the lighting.
I can certainly emphasise the fact that the pitch can hardly have been used, so that it hasn't been given a good trial, and ask environmental health to look into the acoustics.
Yeah.
The light is supposed to not have scatter. It's supposed to be directed. But that probably still upset the nightlife in the railway cutting. So.
Okay. Oh, Martin.
Just to finish the conversation, yes, the lighting's not meant to have any scattering, but there's no policing or monitoring of it post installation. So, you know, nobody goes back and does it. So it's not a criticism of the Royal Latin School. It's just, it doesn't happen at any of these type of installations. So, you know, once they need to replace a bulb and somebody gets up there and alters the position of it to do things, you know, there's no way of policing that and checking it. So I'd rather err on the side of caution and say, no, you know, you've got your hours, that's fine. And that's how it is.
Yeah, and it's only because this application has come forward that the neighbours put a complaint in saying that the acoustic fence doesn't work. So we probably wouldn't have known that otherwise. All right, so I'm going to kick this off with hands up to oppose this application.
Right, 5, that was.
Thank you. Those who support the application?
None.
Abstentions?
1, 2, 3.
Thank you very much. Okay, and next one is Sixstowe Avenue, erection of 2-storey rear extension. There's no statutory notices. They have sorted out the parking issues that we had last time. They're going to use the rest of their front garden, so I commend them on that. I don't have any issues with this personally, but what do members think?
Not opposed.
Yep. Okay, so hands up to not object.
If I may, for a moment.
Of course you can, Martin.
Yes, they're using the front garden for the parking. does the application make any reference to the permeability of that paving at the front?
They're talking about gravel.
Sorry?
They're talking about gravel.
Okay, and that's a planning condition, is it?
Well, we can ask that it be made so.
Well, it says gravel, but you know, what happens if they put concrete underneath it and then put a few pebbles on the top?
Yeah,
That's why we asked for it to be permeable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Martin. Okay, so hands up not to object to this application.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Thank you. Those who oppose the application?
None.
Abstentions?
1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Okay, 11 tree fields, single story rear extension. We've got no statutory notice again. I can't see any issues with this. Open it up for discussion. Mark?
I think it's worth pointing out what Catherine indicated in her report, that it's very, very unusual to have a permission given in a particular person's name, which they've done here, to Mr. and Mrs. Stone. I think the history of this is in 2011, we were trying to establish Hillcrest as an industrial estate, and here's a retail place popping in. So we opposed it, trying to protect the town centre, but we were overruled by AVDC. But they put this very strict condition that the moment the Stones left, they would have to give up that retail use. Well, I think we've got to be pragmatic in this day and age and allow this to go ahead, because it's going to be combined with this other application nearby, which has been withdrawn for the moment, but I believe is coming back, so that they can not only sell but make optical equipment on those premises. So I'm all in favour of having that condition removed. Let Mr. and Mrs. Stone enjoy their retirement.
Yeah, I'd like to apologise. I actually said 11 tree fields. I missed 7 Hillcrest. So sorry about that. So ignore my comment about the no statutory notice.
There's no statutory notice on this one either.
Oh, there we go. My crystal ball. Okay. All right. So
Lisa?
Sorry, who's that?
I think it might be withdrawn because it falls into the new Class E.
Yeah.
Ah.
It doesn't actually need permission anymore.
Okay, well, we'll vote on it anyway.
Sure because it doesn't actually say, but it would. So it may be that's why they've withdrawn it.
Yeah.
I think commercial properties do fall into Class E.
Some of the Class Ds do, some of them don't.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So hands up not to object to the condition being removed.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And against?
None.
Abstentions?
1.
Thanks, Robin. Okay, now 11 tree fields, no statutory notice. Anybody like to talk on that? Nope. Okay. All right, so hands up to not object to 11 tree fields.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5.
Thank you. Those against?
None.
Abstentions?
1, 2, 3.
Thank you very much. Right, amended plans. Land at Tinswick Road, the variation of condition 10. And the very lengthy report that Catherine put together, and she spent an enormous amount of time on. One of the comments that Catherine made when she was looking at this is there's not actual any there's no markings on what the revisions are on the plans, so she has to go through them one by one, which I think is incredibly poor, especially when architects, surveyors and the like are getting paid a lot of money to do a very good job. And I think the least they can do is supply a list of all revisions so that our planning officers don't have to spend their whole weekend looking for them. I just think it's out of order. So I think that message needs to go down to the Shire Council and passed on. Probably won't take any notice of it, but I just think it's wrong. So open the floor for discussion on this one. All right, I've got Mark, I've got Robin so far. Okay, Mark.
Robin was first.
Sorry, Robin.
Yeah, I mean, to premise what you said, Chairman, this isn't how it should be done. All these things are. It's not like in a terraced house somewhere. It's a major application, and the report that Catherine's drafted, all the changes to housing types and positions and whatever, is a huge amendment. It's and the fact that listening to the report or reading the report, none of the stuff is in conformity. So this really isn't an amendment that they should be considering, irrespective of whether they agree it or don't agree it, till such time as the paperwork's in conformity, because it makes a travesty of the whole planning process. Now, through Catherine and the committee, we took a long time over this application in its considering stages, and we considered everything in line with that. But I understand, and I'd like to be corrected if I'm wrong, that the paperwork which they're showing isn't even the paperwork to do with the amendment online, which is a real concern, because the council shouldn't be doing this. And amendments to applications, we are up. What's our rights as a council on consultation on those amendments? Because amendments get dealt with differently to full-blown applications, which is where it brings me back to whether this is something that we need to do through Shire councillors, as we term we use, because Catherine might advise me whether they'll take any strong notice of our comments as a committee on that. But this is a worry. This is a real worry, because this site is a major development, and it's not a small development of 10 houses or something. It's 400 houses. It's a big development, you know, which we've got a integral interest in.
Yeah, Catherine, did you want to come back?
Well, I'd like to listen to what other members have to say first, and then I'll sum up.
Sure, thank you. Mark?
Yeah, I'll just endorse what Robin said. We were looking at 382 houses. They've now added another 9. Catherine's been presented with revisions without any plans, revisions D and E. Until we've got those, as she recommends, after her report, this reconsultation be postponed. Send it back and say we cannot determine this till we have all the correct documentation.
Yeah. Carolyn?
I would just like to endorse all these comments. When this came up last time as an amendment to add 17 houses to the agreed 382, it's just a very underhand way of going about planning applications. And as Robin has said, this is a major application with major impact on the town of Buckingham, and they just sort of slip these things through in the hope that we just roll over. Well, I don't think we should roll over. We take a very dim view of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I think that's all members that wanted to speak. Catherine?
I think this is serious. I mean, because when I actually went through, I didn't have the drawings until last Monday, even though I'd ordered them on the 12th in anticipation of having to work through it. So I spent the weekend with the screen doing these enormous drawings, inch by inch, to try and find out what they'd changed. And they've reinstated the roads that they were going to delete, apparently, because I haven't got a new site plan and I've not been able to get hold of one. I've been able to get hold of the D revision with the landscape comments on it. So there was a D revision, which they circulated internally for consultees. We weren't told about it. There is a revision E, which I can only assume completely reinstates the original road pattern, because that's what the new drawings are based on. But if they have reinstated roads that they had deleted in order to put extra houses in the space thus formed, then I would like to know where those houses are now going, and I've got no clue whatsoever. I think this is higher than the officer. I think this is higher up the hierarchy. We need to really make a strop about this, I think. I mean, because they were so different, I thought for a moment the whole thing was a mistake, and they got some old drawings that they didn't want, and they'd given them to the technician to put on the website, and she'd put them on as new ones. But no, it turns out that there is an amendment, but what it is, I can't tell until I've got the new site plan.
Yeah.
And it's a question of putting it side by side with the old one and spotting the difference. Because as Chairman said, there is no revision table on the corner.
And it's such an easy thing for them to do,
well,
compared to the amount of hours work that you have to do.
The rest of the architects and engineers world does it. We even had them on the corners of the plans when it was Barrett's at Lace Hill, but these is a different office and they clearly don't follow your standard pattern.
Yeah. Okay, last words on it, Robin.
I'm listening to everyone, and I think that with agreement, we got two approach on this. I think that we need to go to Chris Hussey with this. It's Chris Curry with this, because she's now head of planning, overall planning, because we go to Aylesbury with this. I think it's a serious devolution of accuracy. So I'm saying is it's a major application. The reason I say go to Chris is because she was in charge of Buckinghamshire County Council's highways when all the application went through, and she would have dealt with the highway elements when she was a Buckinghamshire Council officer, Buckinghamshire County Council officer. She also, I understand now, I believe is head of the whole planning. So she will understand what it is, because she would have worked on the amendments to the road entering in it. She also worked on the all the mediation works to do with the roundabout, which we struggled to get, which I asked for as a councillor at the time. And she did all that. So she has a full understanding of this. If we go to Aylesbury, they only understand part of it. I think she understands it all. So I think it's there we go. And if we, because she needs to come in and sort this out, you know, they've already messed up one planning meeting. This won't go necessarily to a planning meeting because it's an amendment, unless Catherine tells me it will do, because it's a strange way of getting your way in an application, isn't it? It always reminds me of previous amendments years ago, which we didn't get to comment on, and things were changed rapidly. Being Lace Hill, for one, many of the stuff went through amendments on Lace Hill, which has left us with the problem we've got there today. This is repeating that process. It's more than a tragedy. It's offensive.
Yes, Carolyn said it's underhanded way of getting things changed, and she's absolutely right.
I reckon we go to Chris Curry.
Chris Curry. Okay, Mark, final thoughts.
If I could just add to what Robin said, of course, the white paper we've been considering would rule out us looking at any amendments at all after we've had a first say at any plan. It would never come back to us. And so this is a huge problem. Robin is absolutely right to highlight that. And this is why we've got to fight this white paper.
I'm happy to, as a member, because this is too important, and as we've all been involved in it, I'm happy to work with Catherine in the sense that to support what she says as a member, because I think this is something I am going to put my neck out on, because I've got more than one toe in the ground on this one. And we've all had such a large amount of effort on this to try and avoid a Lace Hill situation.
Yeah.
And we're now walking into one.
Yeah.
Who else knows what isn't going to happen in amendments?
Yeah.
And the reason we all as a committee worked so hard was to avoid those things.
Yeah, and it all started out really well. And it's a shame that we're now having massive revisions. Okay, all right. So so we're going to go with that we can't comment on this because we don't have the information that we need. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
But through you, Chairman, can I propose that we make a formal complaint to this, and I will support that formal complaint about process not being followed as a member, and I'll put my name to that as a member, because this is far too important. The reason I say we go to that officer is because I believe her understanding of this site far outweighs anybody else.
Yeah, I was just going to go to the vote on that, and then I was going to say about writing to Chris Curry. Mark, were you voting or commenting?
No, I'm just. I don't think you can say we're not going to comment on it. They would read that as we're not interested. So I think we have to say that we cannot determine this until we have the documentation that Catherine needs, and we'll ask them to delay any decisions until we've had a chance to look at this.
Yeah. All right, members happy with that?
The phrase I normally use is members could not make a reasoned assessment.
Yeah. Yeah. And are we happy to complain in the strongest terms to Chris Curry?
Yeah.
And can I'd like to put my name to that complaint to support
absolutely
Catherine,
that's
so
fine.
I can have members discussion on this, because
that's fine, Robin,
yeah,
because
that's fine.
Your ward anyway, so that's we'd copy you as ward councillor.
But I want to put my name on it as
ward. You can.
Yes, that's all right.
You can. That's fine. Thank you. Okay.
Chris knows me very well.
Okay, Robin, that's fine. You can. Okay. Right, so we've got minor amendments, but not in our parish. Oh, just gone anyway. Required by 27th of October.
I will intersperse here that at 4 o'clock today, I got another amended plans for this. I haven't even looked at the drawings yet. It has no response date on it. So the first thing I did was send it back to them saying a response date would be appreciated, as our next meeting is the 30th of November.
Okay.
So I have no idea. I haven't even looked at the drawings yet.
Yeah, that's very late. Gosh. Carolyn.
Try to imagine there's been quite a lot of talk about this, because it appears to be going back to a strategic planning committee on the 19th of November. But we hear that the redetermination is partly to do with the non-fulfillment of the S106 agreement. They've been dilly-dallying for 20 months on this, and nothing's come forward. And I think most of you have had a chance to look at the action group's document that they've submitted on this redetermination, making it quite clear that giving this permission is illegal. So we will wait to see, but this document is quite something, and it'll be interesting to see the officer's response to it. But having said that, we fully expect this, since the new lockdown restrictions have come in, we somehow think that this is going to slip from the 19th of November, so it may well not come up to the new year, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right, thanks for that, Carolyn. Right, I've got Mark and then I've got Robin.
Yeah, the word on the street is that when they do consider it on the 19th, it could well be a 2-day meeting because of the amount of legal argument that's going to go on. That's what I'm hearing from some of the people at Mays Morton. I don't know if Carolyn knows more about that.
I don't know. I haven't heard this might go on for 2 days, but there are a lot of legal arguments to go through, and I think the officer that was responsible for it is taking further advice before she writes her report.
Fair enough. Thank you, Robin.
I have to, if
sorry.
Putting it out for a reconsultation, 21 days from now is the 23rd of November, which is after the committee meeting, so they can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
Can I just ask if if you do get the right action from the council, will one of the town council members want to speak at the meeting?
Yeah, I've got Robin's hand up. Are you?
Well, there's two things with this application. One is I can't understand why it's being done by the Strategic Development Committee, because it isn't a large enough development to be done by the Strategic Development Committee. It should be done by the Buckingham North Bucks Area Committee. There's a real concern in that, because who better would understand this application? The Strategic Development Committee is built up out of people across Buckinghamshire. That might not be a good thing, because I thought applications up to a certain size were going to be done by the area committees, and this one wouldn't. And this being done by strategic committee rather removes that local understanding of the application when it's being determined if it's going to be over 2 days. Maybe I won't get to comment on it because I'm not on strategic development, because that's a whole sort of family affair. So, and the other thing is that if we don't comment, we should register our concerns to it. I say this because after sitting through a planning meeting that got disbanded because the parish did not get consulted, and the constitution stated that Newton Longville should have been consulted and the adjacent parish should have been consulted. And we are the adjacent parish because we share a boundary. So if they don't consider us when this is being heard at committee, they'll already breach their constitution again. So I think we should put a comment in. My recommendation is our views should be put in, because if they ignore them, we can then phone them up at 1 o'clock of the date of the meeting and get it cancelled. Exactly what happened to Newton Longville. Those great fellas in Newton Longville showed us a great wheeze there, didn't they? We should learn by these, learn behaviour. Something especially that sort of behaviour, is something I always want to pick up on. But I think we should do that, because if they ignore us, they can't hear it. In which case, it'll have to get delayed again, because the Constitution clearly states, and I have not yet, haven't yet had the explanation in the Constitution why it was Newton Longville wasn't progressed. But I think that Constitution suggests that we've got more powers. The legal officer suggested that we got more powers. It was a legal officer who said that. So she's giving us more weight of powers that we should be consulted. And if consulted, we can comment for the 3 minutes, and then glorious 3 minutes. So I do think we need to make comment, if only to give 3 extra minutes to Mays Morton, not to interrupt in their 3 minutes.
No, of course.
And I just come back very quickly on the point about it not perhaps being appropriate for the strategic committee. Yes, it's come to our notice that indeed it is not in the Constitution that this should be considered by the strategic, which obviously the Constitution has changed since Buckinghamshire Council took over. And we are at the moment formulating a letter to the chairman of strategic, asking for clarification as to whether it should be heard there or at the North Bucks Planning Committee.
Just on that,
yes, Robin.
I believe that hasn't changed. If you want me to give you a copy of the Constitution,
I've got it.
You've got it. I can't see in that constitution where that's changed. It states up to a certain size in the constitution. They cannot amend the constitution because after the agreement at the Buckinghamshire Shadow Authority said the constitution would be amended latterly. They can't amend it now. If it says in that constitution houses up to 100 and some bit or other,
up to 400.
400 should be considered at the area committee. Over that goes to strategic. They can't take, because that means they determine it in the wrong committee and they're in breach of their constitution. So we can ask for it to be determined again. So they keep breaching this constitution when it suits them, but they won't amend it when we ask them. So
I think, yeah, we have spotted this anyway.
Yeah, that's good.
Right, thank you.
Because, you know, as they're a bit worried about these things at the moment, Caroline, anything you mention on the constitution is a bit of a rash at the moment. Have a go at it.
Well done.
Okay. Right. Our next not for consultation is 23 Overend Avenue. Well, it's not to be consulted on.
It's a what? Do you remember a couple of 2 or 3 years back, we had these new household extensions that, provided they didn't breach certain measurement limits, they were you just basically had to ask the neighbours whether they minded. This is one of those. HPD means it's permitted development.
Oh, okay.
I think noted.
Yeah, that makes sense then. Thank you, Catherine. Right, tree applications 19, 20, 21, 22 and 23. I understand they're already been done or in the process of being done. So we're going to note those, committee. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Right, let's close down Catherine's report. Thank you again for doing that, Catherine.
Okay. Thank you for thanking.
I mean, 31 pages and 6,180 words. That's a pretty decent report there. Pretty decent.
I didn't count the words, my lord. I never look at the word count.
I didn't count them. Word did. Okay. Right. Planning decisions. Noting planning decisions. Yeah. Or does anybody want to talk on planning decisions? Can't see any hands up. Noted. Yep. Yep. Nods. Good. Thank you. Okay. Even though it's not consulting on, we've got the planning inspectorate, the appeal, the 9 dwellings on the land adjacent to Tesco's London Road. So we've got Appendix F and Appendix G. So I'll take John first.
I have to say I didn't read the whole document. I did scan through it because it is quite long. But I don't remember seeing any mention of the Buckingham Neighbourhood Development Plan in there. And given that currently we're the only plan for this area, then I'm a little bit surprised that they haven't referenced it, unless I missed it, in which case I'm happy to shut up.
Mark.
Yeah, it is referenced in 4 points on page 8, 3.8, 3.9, 3.10 and 3.11, along with the Vale of Aylesbury plan, along with the national policy planning policy framework. So it is there, John.
Yeah, I lost the will to live. I have to say, I apologise.
Yeah, there was something I picked up on that, but I'll let you go first, Robin, while I find it again.
You recall when we discussed this, it was a PIP application, and it went through, and as the paperwork suggests, the officers turned it away.
Yeah.
What worries me about this and the new legislation is suggesting that PIP applications won't even under the Constitution of the Council be allowed to be called in by members. So a PIP application would have to be determined by the officers and head of planning. So this PIP application wheeze is going to be quite a concern if that becomes practice. And of course, this site in itself, the discussion of it in the correspondence says was no planning application on it. Well, that's not correct, because there was an application for Tesco's on the site, so that's not correct. And there's numerous other things that aren't correct, which don't come to mind. But I do think that at the very least we need to, through Catherine, who will know all this stuff, is make sure the officers actually are aware of the inconsistencies in this.
Yeah.
As an, because the inspector probably didn't even know that when it goes to appeal, and the inspector should be made aware of these things, because they've not only chosen which evidence they put in, they deliberately chosen not to include some information into it, which doesn't help. And we're not sure the officer who goes to represent his application will be the same officer who dealt with it before. So we do need to make sure that information is available so that wrongdoing doesn't progress. Because there are estates near it, but in our local plan, this was designated as industrial, not housing. And yes, Badgers is a long way away from it. I'm living quite close to the other side of it. And also we need to make them aware that there's a contaminant issue on this site, because we don't know what's in the mound. That's there. It needs to be considered, but I'll shut up now.
They do mention that contaminant business.
There is the bit that I wanted to raise was under 4.11 that I took umbrage with, where they say it is clear from the above that the site has yet to be considered as part of the neighbourhood or local plan adoption process for its potential for residential use. And the fact that we did a site assessment on it and assessed it for employment land, then that is misleading to an inspectorate, because an inspector might look at that and think, oh, okay, they didn't assess it. But we did in fact assess it based on what was around it and what is still around it. So, I do think we need to formulate a very clear response to this and make sure the inspectorate does know the inconsistencies. Mark?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. You're absolutely right. 4.11 draws attention to that. 3 paragraphs on 4.14 then goes on to say, in this case, the BNDP site assessment and the 2017 HELA both suggest the site is no longer suitable for employment use. However, neither of you has thoroughly assessed the appeal site for its potential development for other uses, including housing. As demonstrated by the lack of development or interest in the land from employment use, clearly there's no prospect the appeal site coming forward for employment development, nor has there been over the past 16 years. This is absolutely wrong, because Tesco always had this site earmarked as the extension to make a superstore, which and is nodding away there. That application was eventually formally withdrawn once the McDonald's approval was given. But again, it's just inaccuracies. And I would remind members yet again that there is not yet a VALP, and that the overarching plan at the moment for Buckingham is the Buckingham Neighbourhood Development Plan. And it will be until the VALP is made, or if the VALP doesn't happen, a county-wide plan is made. And again, I'll remind you that back in 2016, Susan Pilcher, who was the Chief Planning Officer for Aylesbury Vale, said an unmade plan cannot be given weight in itself until it is made. So that means our neighbourhood plan is still the the current one, the overarching one, and this has to be put very, very clearly before the inspector. And we do need to, along with what Lisa said, with what Robin said, and taking those paragraphs in, we need to put this firmly ourselves to be represented at this appeal.
Okay, members in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okie dokes. Right, item 8, Buckinghamshire Council members, 8.1, received news of Shire Council new documents and other information from council members present. We've already lost one. So, Robin, do you have anything for us? You're muted, hun.
Lucky for you, weren't it? I'll two things. One, I think we need to establish after the amended motion was agreed at Buckinghamshire Council, it states that we're going to be consulted about the Constitution and the drawing up of the Constitution in the new council in these post May. So I think we need to study what the actual wording was on that in the amendment, and we need to ask when this consultation will start place, because that's now been because I took that motion at your bequest.
Yeah.
That now we've agreed that there's going to be a public consultation, which is a big step forward. We didn't get the timeline we wanted, but actually that they've agreed they're going to consult the parishes. That's a big step forward, because then other people can all join in making the arguments about the Constitution. Yeah. The other point being that it was said by Councillor Martin Tett in his pronunciations at council that the comments on the white paper, which was the amendment to the motion on the white paper, will be consulted with the parishes about what they meant in their consultation. Their responses, he wanted to have a consultation with the parishes. So we should open that consultation, because that's a proper conversation about how they're going to, if the white paper passes through legislature unamended, that's a proper consultation about those elements that we're concerned about. And then again, it was taken from yourselves through planning, through council, through the Shire, Buckinghamshire Council. So you've got a tooth in on that, and that got passed amended. But there are arguments about, we were going to respond with the consultation. Now the consultation and its obligations upon the council have been voted on and agreed by the council. So that's quite a strong thing. They can't backtrack on the negative comments about the planning implications on borrowing money on planning and all the other things that we discussed, and Councillor Cole and other members, when we discussed this, brought it forward. So that's rigid, and they said they're going to consult us about it. So I think we need to, this needs to not take my word for it, but listen to the responses and what comes out in. If it doesn't match, the minutes don't match the responses given at council, there's a constitutional issue there, because we're going to be consulted on it. That's important, because then we can determine, after it goes through the stages of Parliament, what objections need to be made further to it and who we need to approach. And I think that's important. There were two things that came from here. That's why I mentioned them. As for the other bits to do with calling stuff in further on, I am a bit concerned about where we go with the Market Square application being, the application for accommodation plus above the shop what used to be Woolworths.
M&Co.
M&Co. I couldn't get there. Yeah, M&Co. I don't shop in M&Co because I'm not a great new clothes buyer, but but I do think that that's not going to be called in, and I don't know where we go with that, because Catherine made it.
I mean, that's 8.3. So Can we?
Yeah, I just leave that to them. But that was the two things.
Yeah, no, we'll talk about that, but I don't want to skip over 8.2 first. Did anybody have anything they wanted to ask Robin about the motions that he put to council? No. Okay, can I have it minuted, please, Nina? For thanks for Councillor Stutchbury for taking those to council for us, and at least raising these issues down there. Thanks for that, Mark. Okay.
Hi there.
Oh, it's Paul. Okay, 8.2, to discuss applications to be called in as decided above. So, Catherine, which ones? It might actually help if you open up Appendix H and we can see who has and who has not been helpful. So let's get Appendix H open. Okay. I'll have a look at this H one. Right. Okay. Right. What ones have we? What ones are we opposing there, Catherine?
We'll take them one at a time.
Yeah.
TJ's in Market Square.
Okay. Who would we like to call that in for us? Just call out a name. Any name. Don't stand on ceremony.
Charlie Clare.
Okay. Can I have a seconder for Charlie Clare? Thank you, Anthony. Okay. Charlie. Okay. Next one, Catherine.
Glynswood Road.
Glynswood Road. Call out a name, anyone?
Councillor White.
Warren, can we have a seconder? Okay. Thank you. Seconder for Warren. Next, Catherine.
Oven Crescent.
Oven Crescent 71.
Howard Mordew.
Howard. Seconder for Howard.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you, chaps. Catherine.
Latin School.
Latin School. Call out a name.
Charlie Clare.
Seconder for Charlie.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, John. Thanks, Anthony. Next.
Yep, that's it for opposes for tonight.
Fabulous. Mark?
Chairman, before we move on, I'm very concerned that in refusing to call in a recent application for us, Councillor Mills stated in his closing comment in the email to Catherine that BTC, Buckingham Town Council, seemed to be assessing the application, which is the role of the planning officer, and coming to your own determination, which is prejudging the application. I'm sorry that Councillor Mills has left us now, because I'd like to have questioned him over that, but he does not seem to understand the planning process. We, as a planning committee, are a consultee, ensuring that applications which come before us meet all national and local policies and standards, that anything to do with planning reasons. Otherwise, there's no point us having a committee. Obviously, that's something maybe Buckinghamshire Council would prefer, but Councillor Mills doesn't seem to quite realise that, you know, we are prejudging the application. That's our job.
Yeah.
Can
I have
ask
to agree that I found his comments quite remarkable, and it wasn't just that. It was basically his whole email that I just found astounding. I did start penning a reply to him, but I didn't finish it, unfortunately. I will though. But yeah, I think. I know that he said that he consulted an officer, but I think he's not understanding the information we've been told as to our position and what we're meant to do, as in we discuss it, we agree a decision, and then we ask when the Shires to call it in. For him to say that we're prejudging the application is just astounding. Robin?
Well, he doesn't seem to actually understand his own constitution, does he? Because
No.
he sat for a meeting the other day where, when the parish wasn't consulted and with their right to respond to it, the application fell flat on its back. So you can't be right, because I listened to the legal officer who said that was true. So I'm going to go with the legal officer on this because her opinion matches my own. So that's why I'm going to choose their opinion. If it didn't match my own, I'd just disagree with it. But her opinion said that the parishes had the right to be consulted, which is making a determination about an application and a view. So what he said is technically incorrect. And if any officers told him that we shouldn't be having a view, then that officer's advice has been proven in public, in a public hearing of the planning committee, which was cancelled, to be erroneous and incorrect. So where that leaves us, are we timed out on this now, Catherine, that we can't?
Yeah, because they went to the September meeting, so it will have timed out by now.
But it didn't go.
I mean, we can just hope that the officer sees it the way we saw it and refuses it, and that sorts it out.
Which meeting did it go to then?
September. We put it to Simon Cole first, and he didn't reply. So at the last meeting, members decided we'd offer it to Chancellor Mills.
So which September committee did it go to? Because it didn't go to the...
No, our planning committee.
Right. So it hasn't gone to an Aylesbury Buckinghamshire committee yet, has it?
No.
So what I'm
Neither
saying
of them.
is we can still call it in.
Well, you only get a certain time limit you can call it in, don't you?
So it's timed out on that basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you see, if we've been given incorrect information by a Shire councillor, then surely that gives us weight, because we've tried getting it called in. Surely there's an argument there.
Yeah.
Well, there is a whole document on call-in procedures, but basically there is a time limit on calling in.
Well, there's also a standard that they're supposed to work to, but that's not working either. Mark?
Yeah, I'm going to propose a motion for the next planning committee that we consider asking the local government ombudsman to step in. This is becoming a complete farce now. If we have no democratic powers at all as a town council, then, you know, we shouldn't even be representing our 15,000 population. So I will raise a motion at the next planning committee with your agreement, Chairman.
Yeah, and I'll happily second it.
Could I just ask that what we do use is, I think if Caroline's got a good understanding of the Constitution and a copy of it, I think we need to quote their Constitution and where it states in it. I've got a copy, a hard copy you can borrow, Mark.
I have a copy, thank you.
Yeah, we've got their Constitution.
Yeah, I mean, because sometimes it's easy to flip through a hard copy on the. As it
No,
is
I think Mark will be
because
fine
I
on
think
that.
we need to be quoting their Constitution back at them, because because they've demonstrated, you know, where it's funny that I've got, you know, into this week, and I still haven't had the response from the legal officer why the committee was called into was held up. But I'm worried, you know, because I could have at any point, I could have just acted for you, you see, but we were trying to avoid just me doing it. So with these other applications, can we, through the office, at least make sure we don't lose out through a councillor's actions? That I can call it in. One application which we did call in has now been determined, deemed to be determined, because we had that come back, and that was the, Catherine will remind me of the name of it because I copied her into the correspondence. One's been actually determined, and all the things that we said have been made in it. That was the engineering
Hamilton Precision.
Hamilton position. That's been determined by an officer.
Yeah.
But even though it was called in, it never went to committee. But all the points that we raised were in the actual, the officers brought forward. So that's okay.
All right, guys, I'm going to have to wind this up. It's 10 to 10. I've just noticed the time.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll wait for a motion to come back from Mark. This is just ridiculous.
Can we do press release?
We can do an anything release at this point.
Can I do a press? Can I ask that we do a press release?
Can we wait till we get to the end, Robin? Catherine?
I thought you were calling it to a halt, Mike.
No, we've got 10 minutes. Catherine?
Oh, okay, right.
I just wanted to check with Paul because I don't think we can take a local council to the Ombudsman ourselves. I think we've run into this problem before, that we as a council cannot take our senior council to the Ombudsman.
No, but I think we can have a conversation with Mark outside the meeting about the best step we can take. What the best motion might be.
I just wanted that clear in the meeting, that was all.
Yeah, well, we've got to do something. Silly.
What would be with Paul, obviously, so that it's legally correct.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. All right. So, are we happy to note 8.3, the applications oppose and attend, or did anybody want to speak on that quickly? Got 30 seconds if you do. No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 9 is the meetings that were cancelled and applications. So noted. Government consultations, item 10, to note the white paper responses. Noted. Yep.
Yeah, noted.
Yep, thank you. Item 11, postponed for last meeting, draft Milton Keynes planning obligations.
We haven't got time.
No, we haven't.
No.
Not unless members are happy to go past 10 o'clock, like 10 minutes past.
It's not fair on the officers, I don't believe.
No, I don't think it is either. But I have to ask because we're allowed to do it, so I have to ask members.
Chair, I would say it's not urgent. The items left on the agenda, there are nothing's urgent on here that we can't deal with at the next meeting.
Unless there's any breaches you want me to report.
No. Enforcement, item 11.
No.
No, let me just turn the screen. No. Trees. We've got a list of applications.
Again, I would propose that we defer this to the next meeting. I think there needs to be a longer discussion about trees than we've got time for tonight.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Hart.
Yeah, that is a rolling list in any case, so it will come back augmented each time. So
yeah, it's the list that we've asked for to have trees added to each time. Great. So it's always going to be on our agenda anyway, John.
Agreed.
Okay, 13 matters to report. Anybody? Mark?
Yeah, the A413 bypass, Borton Road roundabout. The road has collapsed even more now, the bridge over the Ouse. Ruth Newell, in fact, asked if I would raise this tonight because she's had a problem with Rob driving over it, the car crashing down on it. Other people have asked me, when is it going to be fixed? This is the road's collapsed on the river bridge, southbound, between the Old Stratford roundabout and the Borton roundabout. We've reported it twice over the last 2 years. Nothing's been done. They actually patched all that road up, all the roundabouts, but they ignored that problem. I've reported it again this morning on the Fix My Streets, but I'm not confident anything will happen. But they just seem to be ignoring it. It is.
Can you complain to me, Mark?
I'm sorry?
Complain to me, please, and I'll take it up.
We want you to complain to him. Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So was there anything else on that, Mark?
Nope.
No. Okay. All right. So we'll report that, Catherine. Is that okay?
Yeah. I do have a contact in Bridges now, so I could go straight to him.
Oh, nice. Brilliant.
because
Who
a
is this
large
contact?
lorry drove into the Hunter Street Railway Bridge, and gentleman who lived nearby wanted it, so we sorted that out.
What's
And
the officer's name?
Afterwards,
I
Robin,
can't-
please. We
I'll
haven't got
have to do
time.
that afterwards, Robin, because I can't get into my emails while I've got the screen
No.
on. So.
All right, brilliant. Okay, that's fabulous. I don't have any items for information. Not unless Paul or Catherine, you've got anything last minute. No. Okay, date of next meeting is the 30th of November.
Press release.
Oh, it's not on there. Press releases.
No, press releases are agreed in the course of the meeting.
Well, I said do a press release earlier on.
And I moved you on.
You
You're
moved me on.
absolutely right. I did.
So on that
I'll let you
basis,
speak now. Then you've got 3
I
minutes,
think we
Robin.
should consider a careful press release around our concerns about the Tingit Roads estate and get it drafted up in advance, so that if we do need to release a press release on that, we do, because we put so much effort, both us, the Buckingham Society, and everyone, trying to get that estate not to be a carbuncle, in Prince Charles's words. I can say that because I met him once, so I can call him a carbuncle. But I think we need to do that, because if we give up on this type of thing, we give up on Buckingham.
Yeah.
What's the members feel on that? So a drafted press release, not sent press release. We happy?
And then we send it if necessary.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. All right. Is there any other press releases? No. Good. All right. Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you.
Nina.
Well done,
Karen. Catherine. Thanks everybody for being here.
When you're waving your hands, John, it's like a strobe with that light behind you.
I mean,
Like a
it's been changing colour all night as well.
It's like a 70s disco.
It does look like a disco.
Add a bit of just colour to the proceedings.
Well done, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone.
See you then.
See you
Bye.
soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks again, Paul.